Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. It is positively a merger week for all that we're doing. No better way to celebrate a Baltimore over Washington football win than to break out WNST 3.0, which we're calling Baltimore Positive. You can check it out. All of it brought to you by our friends, and I'm wearing my Raskin Global shirt. My friend Leonard Raskin and Raskin Global. I got my investments around here. I've been too busy chewing on them. My breath smells a lot better when the Ravens are 3-1 and they beat the Washington football team. Leonard, how are you, man? I know you're caught up in sports here, and the Stanley Cup's over now, but we're all locked in on this Ravens season here, and I think we're about to go into this period where we're going to find out how good we are, whether we're going to be that 14-2 team, or whether we're going to be 10-6.
15-1, baby, 15-1.
I like the optimism.
They already lost their loss. That's the loss. They're done. Kansas City took them. Now we just have to hope somebody takes Kansas City out before we play them again.
Well, we were hoping for New England the other night, and that was a little weird. I'm rooting for the backup to the backup Patriots quarterback. I should feel no sympathy for New England, nor should I probably feel any angst toward Kansas City, right?
No, I wanted to see Kansas City win that game. I'm still anti-New England. I don't care if Brady's there or not.
Well, we get our chance against them in a couple of weeks. We'll get to go up there. The COVID thing comes back, starts canceling games and moving things around here a little bit. I'm a little more nervous about this. I was feeling pretty good about myself 2-3 weeks ago. Like, we're going to have a season. Everything's going to be not in Tennessee, right? And now Stephon Gilmore has that issue up in New England. So, I think on a daily basis, we should just be happy they're getting these games in. And when they're getting these games in every Sunday, 4:05 this week, I'm going to celebrate if we're playing football, because it really is the best part of the week after not having this stuff for 6 months.
Yeah, it's good to see. They're playing, and we're looking better every week. And hopefully, look, 3-1 at the quarter pole ain't so bad. I would take the next 4 wins. I like that personally, I like that the bye was swapped. I like seeing Pittsburgh after the bye instead of before the bye. I think that's a good get. Get a little extra time to prepare for Ben and the boys. And what the heck, let's go get them.
Well, it is football season. Our friends at Raskin Global, you're missing out on all the fun, right? Like, the fun of football season is seeing you at a game, seeing you at an event, seeing a player, having a player show, doing things, being in the locker room for me, reporting from a locker room with laughs and questions. And it's been surreal. I mean, they're still playing every Sunday, and I went down to D.C. on Sunday. Leonard, I got home. I went to the game at FedEx. First thing, I felt like a hot shot. I mean, Dan Snyder treated me great. My parking pass said Plata on it, and I'm Hispanic, and I'm like, oh, they're parking me in the plate. That's wonderful. It's like the River Plate in Buenos Aires. And I get down there, and they're like, no, sir, you're in Platinum A. And I'm like, oh, Platinum A, I had covered parking in D.C., and I go into a stadium that, I'm not fond of.
One of 50 people that were there?
There might have been 100. You know what I mean? There were a few more people in the press box than there were in Houston, because some of the Baltimore media made the drive. It's the only time I'm going to see Jeff Zrebiec for the next year and a half, I think, right? Because I'm not going to the home games. The game ended, and the Zoom thing's so weird that, like, I watched the Zoom press conference in the car on the way home. I walked into my condo at 4:52 p.m. on Sunday.
Yeah, and that's a horrible place to get out of. I was doing
post-game at 5:10.
That's a really, really bad place to drive out of.
Not that day, was it? And I'm like,
not this game.
Well, it's War of the Worlds when you can get out of the FedEx parking lot, right, Leonard?
Right. And you can get out of there fast. I mean, I don't care where you park. It's one way in and one way out, and it's terrible.
Well, the funniest story is that I only know one way in. And a little plug for my Planet Fitness partners. They've allowed me to park my bus there, my car there. Whenever I go down there for a concert, I always park in the Planet Fitness lot down at the foot of the hill. And I tried to go in that way, and they're like, no, sir, you have a Plata parking. You have to go around Good Seat Road and up the hill there. I drove 6 miles around an empty stadium just to get into the parking lot. SWAT team everywhere, the whole deal going on. And meanwhile, that's a bad football team. And I guess our football team judged against that football team on a week-by-week basis, we're going to look pretty good. I think the Bengals are going to be more formidable. I think this kid can play quarterback a little bit. And the pass rush issue, in victories, we don't say, well, Lamar's great. We're running the ball, and he got Andrews back in, and Judon got off, got a couple sacks. I'm looking at it all week long and saying, how do we make the pass rush better? How do we get all the running backs involved? How do we have Lamar run less and throw more, right? Where's the offensive line, and where's Ronnie Stanley? So we sort of are looking at, if we're going to win games in January, these are the things we're sort of looking under the magnifying glass a little bit more now to say, we need to start developing a pass. We need to stop that swing pass into the middle of our linebacking core and the tight ends running wild through our linebackers. These are the things on a week-by-week basis that I'm going to start measuring the team because I think they're going to win a lot of games.
I haven't seen us stop a screen pass in years. I don't know how the teams just get away with throwing screens and 30 yards later we tackle the guy.
Well, you get upfield too far, right?
Yeah,
and that's
crazy.
part of trying so hard to get a pass rush.
Yeah, so they look, the good news is you can play that way against the Washington football team. You can get away with that there. Like you said, I don't know if you get away with that against the Heisman Trophy national champion Burrow. He might be a little better than that. But he is a rookie, and we're good at confusing rookies, so let's go out and confuse him again.
Not confused by the market or your money. He is Leonard Raskin at Raskin Global. You can find them at Raskin Global, and I'll pull the website up in a minute, but I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about where we are. As I sit here, and every person I've had on from Ohio, I'm like, vote, so I'm telling everybody, vote. But the election is going to affect the market. It's going to affect people's minds, and I know you're going to say, don't let it. But for people that do look at the election one way or another as something positive or negative for their money.
Yep.
Where are you in the coming weeks for volatility of markets? Looking down and seeing your 401 go this or this and stopping yourself from the freak out. As I turn 52 next week, Leonard, that's probably been the hardest thing over the course of time in 20s and 30s and 40s as, money goes up. What's the Billy Joel song? The money comes, the money goes.
There you go. There you go. Well, the biggest thing investors have to do, as you said, what I'm going to say is don't pay attention to what's going on this week, this month, this year, unless you need your money to live on this week, this month, this year, in which case you should have already paid attention to that and made decisions based on that. The bottom line is your strategy for your portfolio has to be scientifically engineered. It's got to be long-term. If we're talking about people trading, we're talking about people speculating and gambling with their money. And if you're going to trade based on the news of the day that is, Trump's got COVID, Trump doesn't have COVID, Biden's going to win the election, Trump's going to win the election, we're negotiating for stimulus, we're not negotiating for stimulus. All those things move the market on a day-to-day basis. And if you're going to trade on that, you are not an investor, you are a gambler. And you may make some money, you're more likely than not to lose some money. And in the long run, that's not investing. That's gambling. And so what I would say is go to the casino and gamble. At least you get free drinks. And there's something to look at and enjoy the sights and sounds while you're there versus sitting in your house at your computer, gambling on the screen, making trades all day and night, and thinking that you're an investor. If you talk to people and they will tell you, hey, I own Facebook, it made a fortune, or I own Google, I made a ton. Well, most of the time, those same people won't tell you that their investment is $100 in Facebook that's worth $800, and that fortune ain't a fortune. It's a small wager that they got a nice return on. But the other thing is, they're not going to tell you the 10 stocks they bought that were for $800 that are now worth $100. So most gamblers don't disclose their losses. Most traders don't disclose their losses. And investors don't trade. Investors set an allocation for their assets based on a scientific allocation strategy. They know how much they can lose. They know what their targets are. And they rebalance their portfolios when news causes the market to go down. When the market goes down, that's the opportunity to buy in, rebalance your assets. When the market roars, that's the opportunity to sell your gains, lock in your value, and keep going. And that's what investors need to understand. And whatever happens in this election, whoever wins, it may change tax policy. it's going to move the market in December. But we're going to look back in 2022, 2026, 2030 and say, who cared? There's
In the
so
same way
many
we look back at
elections.
2014 right now and say, well, doesn't matter what happened then.
That's right. I mean, look, I have clients. I've been doing this 33 years. Let me give you a quick story. In 2016, so this will just go back short term. Don't even need to go back any longer term. October. So this time, 4 years ago, got a phone call from a woman who just thought Donald Trump was the devil incarnate. And she said to me, we got to get all my money out of the market. I said, what are you talking about? I think he's going to win, and it scares me to death, and the economy is going to go to hell, and he's going to start World War III, and my money, I can't afford to lose it because I'm going to retire in a few years. And I said, no, we can't do that. We got to stick with what we're doing. If he wins, you'll be fine, and we just got to stick with it. And here's what she said to me. I mean, it took an hour. This was an hour call. At the end of the hour, she said, if you're wrong, I'm coming to live with you. I said, okay, that's a deal, but I'm not wrong, so don't worry about it.
You still have an empty bed upstairs, even though your kid left,
bed.
right?
Right. Now, let me give you the second part of the story. Guy calls me 2 days later. Oh, my God, I think Hillary's going to win. If she wins, the world's going to end.
They'll tax me.
They're going to tax me to death. We're going to be a socialist country. She's the devil incarnate. We got to get my money out of the market. Same hour, same conversation. Same end of the result. Both kept their money invested. Neither of them called months later. The woman didn't call months later and said, thank you for keeping me sane, and my money's just made money since. And the guy that didn't want Hillary to win didn't call and say, you were right, there was no reason to panic. But that's what we do. We talk people off that ledge because neither win in your portfolio over the long term makes a darn bit of difference. And whether Biden wins or whether Trump wins, it is not something you should care about relative to your portfolio long term. And if you're worried short term that something is going to happen, you shouldn't be invested in the first place because you're making a mistake already as an investor, investing when you're not comfortable with all the potential outcomes of your portfolio.
Leonard Raskin is our guest. He's at Raskin Global, empowering people to choose their financial future. If you're watching out on the Zoom, I am showing the website right now, a firm of financial planners and investment advisory representatives serving folks here in Baltimore and beyond. And you can find them at Raskin Global. Everything, what they do, why us, the Resource Center. Talk about the Resource Center a little bit, because for someone like me who just went to Dundalk, as I always tell Don Moeller, and I had Dr. Sandra Curtinitis on to brag about my Community College of Baltimore experience. I had my economics class at Dundalk Community College. But for anyone, and I've called Baltimore Positive, Leonard, a little bit of I've called it a civics class. Like I'm trying to learn about all of these different things. I don't meet too many people above and beyond like you and, my friend Scott, who, who's an accountant, that knows tax code so well, right? Or knows all about all of these things. This is where you come in and say you need a professional. You don't want amateur hour.
Yeah, if you think paying someone for good advice is expensive, you should try amateur time. Amateur time costs people a fortune. And I would say this, during this pandemic, as an example, if you haven't heard from your advisor during this pandemic, you don't have an advisor. So somebody should have reached out to you and talked to you about how you're doing and what's going on, and make sure that you're weathering this storm well. The Resource Center has lots of information in it. It has lots of great calculators in it that you can kind of go in and just self-play around with things. They are not recommendation tools. They're just some ideas of things you can look at to understand what's available to you. But you don't want to say, okay, I'm going to plan my financial strategy on a website. I don't care if it's ours or anybody else's. It's just not something you should do. So the idea is pick up the phone, send an email, hire a professional. We're a fee-based firm. So what that means is we consult on a fee for service basis with you about your money and talk to you about what's going on in your financial life, in your personal investing life, in your protection life, so that you understand what you're doing with your money And then if you choose to be an investor, if you choose that insurance is appropriate for your situation, we can help you secure the right products and services in the financial world to take care of that. But we are not a commission-based firm. We get paid for the advice we give to people about their financial situation, whether they choose to implement a financial strategy or not. And that's pretty unique in the marketplace. Most people have something to sell, and the only way they eat is if you buy. There's
Well,
nothing
I would think
wrong
every
with that.
time somebody comes in and sits down with you, there's something they need to learn, right? Like that they
Absolutely.
sit, and much like anytime I'm with anybody, I mean, I have my friends from Liberty Pure here putting in my water here. I don't know anything about plumbing, right? I mean, so you learn about these things as a homeowner, as a person that needs to buy insurance, take care of your money, that these aren't things that are taught so well out on the streets.
No, and let's face it, a lot of people look at, for instance, a business owner, yourself, a doctor, a lawyer, an executive at a company, and they think automatically, because these people make money and the perception is they make a lot of money, therefore they know what to do with money. There is nothing further from the truth. I would no more get in the cockpit of a 737 and have a clue what to do than a pilot who understands how to fly a 737 should be handling their own money. I would no more go into the operating room and pick up a scalpel and kill somebody as a surgeon should handle their own finances. Just because you create and are brilliant and gifted in one area of your life doesn't mean you've spent, in my case, 33 years studying and continuously reading and learning tax law, estate law, investment philosophy, academic investment theory, insurance law. You couldn't read 10% of what I know in a lifetime because you're busy doing what you do, whatever that you do is. And as I said,
By the way, Steve Bisciotti always says that to the players.
The cost of amateur hour is very expensive. And yeah, you know, the football analogy is a great one because if you think back, you know, you go back in sports a long time. How long you been involved?
36 years.
36 years ago, there was a GM, there was a head coach. How many other coaches were there? 3, 4?
Several, but not as many.
Now, every position has a coach. You got the linebacker coach. The center has his own coach. The long snapper's got a coach. The receivers have a coach.
Special teams have two. They have kicking
special teams coaches. Everybody's got a coach. So you think you're going to handle your money all by yourself. You need somebody to look at your insurance, your investments, your taxes, your wills, and you need somebody to be the general manager of that team. We get paid a fee to be the general manager of your financial affairs. And that's our job. And we make your team work better, or we help you replace them because, as you recognize, coaches get fired. And it's because they don't do a good job. So we help people fire and hire the best coaches to handle whatever aspect of their money is necessary once they've paid us to general manage that financial team. And most people have never had more than one financial advisor in a room together at the same time, whether that's their insurance agent and their broker, their accountant and their attorney. They never talk to each other. How the heck do you know what to do with all that information when what you do is what you do full time? It's just impossible.
Leonard Raskin is here giving you good advice on your money, as he always does here at WNST and Baltimore Positive. You can now find him out at the front of the BaltimorePositive.com site. And, of course, you can always reach him at Raskin Global. I wear the shirt. I chew the mints. I have him on each and every week. And hopefully every week we're talking about Ravens victories here, and certainly good health and prosperity for all of us as we head into this fall season here. Take care of yourself. I will see you next week. And, I certainly hope it's another good news finally. At some point we're going to lose when we shouldn't lose. I just hope it's not in division.
I agree, and it's not going to be this week. I can play that out.
Okay, all right. You're down on the Bengals, are you?
They're the Bengals. Come on.
Man, I said that until Marvin took over, and they sent me home very unhappy on a few New Year's days. So yes, Yeah. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next week, okay?
You got it.
Leonard Raskin, our pal over at RaskinGlobal.com. We showed the website a little bit. You can find the website on your own at Raskin Global. You hear the ads. You see them out at Baltimore Positive. Let them help you take better care of your money and your future. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. I'm taking care of my future with the new website at Baltimore Positive. I hope you're up there checking that out. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and all those places, funneling in to all of the good stuff we do right here at WNST.net. AM 1570 in Towson, Baltimore, where we never stop talking Baltimore sports, your finances, and Baltimore Positive.